a year it's been. Welcome to our Boost 2024 Wrapped. I'm here with Rasmus and Jerry, and we're here to have a look at the year that's just been and maybe get a glimpse into what's coming into next year. My first question today for you, Jerry. Could you give us some reflections on the year that's been?
Sure. So 2024 has been the most successful year on record Boost has ever had. We actually grew our business over 70% compared to the year before, winning some of the biggest logos that exist and in every single region around the world. So a really, really amazing year.
And if you could summarize 5 challenges that our customers have seen this year.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of challenges that our customers have seen over the last 12 months. And I think especially if we look at the context of the world we're operating in, the most and fastest paced innovation I think we've ever seen on record. One of my first jobs was during the routing switching kind of internet era. Second one was around the move to SaaS. And this one around AI is growing faster and more innovative than we've ever seen before. I think our customers are facing a number of key challenges. One is LLMs, and I suppose the whole new language that comes with all of that. LLMs, how do we deploy them? What are they? How do we do it safely? How do we take advantage of it? How do we get value quickly from them? So that would be number one. Number two, this is a challenge for us, and it's a challenge for our customers, the AI committee. We're trying to find out what they're doing as fast as they're trying to work out what it is their role is as well. So these committees are being set up by organizations, obviously to ensure there's some level of control in how they're deploying this technology inside their company. But in many examples, they're trying to work this out as quick as we are. So point number 3, data hygiene. How do we make sure that the great solutions like Boost are sucking information from the right data that exists inside these organizations? Number 4, regulatory compliance. We're going to dig into this a little bit, Rasmus, with some of the work that you've been doing before Boost and post Boost, and then quality of customer experience.
Can you give us a specific example of that?
Yeah, I suppose there's a few examples. Probably the most interesting one we're seeing, contact centers today, or businesses that run contact centers, have typically measured their employees on how quickly can they get their customers through that queue, and ultimately the average handling time shortening and shortening. And what we're seeing now with great solutions like Boost, where they're deploying AI to answer some of these queries, is actually they're measuring them on length of engagement. So actually, the more time that a consumer might spend in engaging with that virtual assistant or that chatbot demonstrates that they're engaged with the brand, and actually is a plus sign rather than trying to get rid of them as quick as possible.
A real switch in our thinking.
Yep.
Speaking of switching, I'm going to come over to you now, Rasmus.
Yep.
Particularly excited to be doing this Wrapped with you, because the first time we brought up the concept, much to our amusement, you really thought we were talking about rapping about the end of the year. So maybe you'll still give us a rap. Maybe we've got that coming.
Or not.
Yeah.
Or not. But we're talking about the challenges that our customers experienced and our market trends.
Yeah.
How has Boost solved for that?
So you can say, I think one of the biggest things that we've launched this year is definitely the generative action, which is the ability for our customers to conduct LLM conversations with their end customers. And I think it's been really transformative to see the level at which this has been sort of adopted throughout all our customers. So roughly, I think 61.5% of our customers have adopted generative action and are actually using it in customer-facing conversations. And what we can see from that is that it actually leads to much more rich conversations, much more personalized, and it can take in a lot of new input as well.
Can I come back onto that question? Because in the market, the uptake isn't seen as much as 61%. So what is it about customers working with Boost that's meaning that they're feeling more comfortable in deploying this technology?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest things that we've launched or as a part of the generative action is the ability to do it in a safe, controlled way. So we can roll it out gradually. Customers can choose, and if you select this, or if you talk about this topic, then you wanna engage in the generative action and the LLM conversations, and then you can apply the guardrails and all the security measurements around those conversations to to stop the conversation from evolving in a way that you don't want it to.
So safe and secure.
Safe and secure.
which is on track with what we know about you, Rasmus, because there is a rumor that you were part of authoring the EU Responsible AI Act.
Yeah.
So that's true, right?
Yes.
You were a part of that. And so what would you say? We hear a lot about responsible AI all over. How does that really impact our customers, and how does Boozt meet that?
Yeah, I think some of the first elements to think about when we talk responsible AI is definitely around transparency. So for me, it really starts with transparency, because if you don't have the transparency, well, how can you have fairness? How can you have human in the loop? How can you have privacy if you don't know what the discussions or the conversations is about, and you can't see what is going on behind the scenes? So that's the first step, is to really have transparency throughout the conversation. That means that you need to know what kind of knowledge were used in these LLM conversations, what kind of guardrails were triggered, and how and when and all of that stuff. So that's the most important thing. Once you have that, then you can start to engage in discussions about whether the conversation is fair, whether there is actually human in the loop. And we at Boozt believe that human in the loop is a very important aspect of these kinds of conversations, because there's many instances where events can happen on a global scale or on a local scale. That means that you need to change your strategy towards what kind of discussions, what kind of conversations you have with customers. So I think that's a very important aspect of it. And then there are things around privacy, security, all of that stuff, which is obviously also important. And then finally around responsibility and accountability for the conversations that you're leading. So these are really important aspects.
As you say, AI is here, but people are looking for ways to utilize LLMs safely.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we've got safety and control, I suppose the third component is really a fantastic experience. Can either of you talk to me about what a great experience looks like when we've got the security and control? What's the last component there?
Well, I believe that when we talk about great user experiences, is around achieving that sort of intimacy with the customers, right? So it's around having the intimacy, and it's also around accountability. So if a customer is having a conversation, well, then it's around, well, do you deliver on what you promise? And also, are you listening to what I'm saying, right? So if I'm saying, hey, by the way, me and my wife are getting married, so we have to leave, so we can't do this insurance claim process that we were supposed to do, is that okay, right? And then there's a continuation of that discussion, which is sort of acknowledging that the reality of the customers that are engaging with the company, right? I think those aspects is really, really important in order to achieve this, really fantastic user experience.
And sorry to just come on to that point, doing that in a way where from a business perspective, you're increasing customer satisfaction in general, potentially versus the human alternative that they were using before, and doing that through different A/B testing to ensure that you're experimenting in the right way, increasing NPS, but doing it that drives significant value back to the business. So one perspective is the consumer perspective in driving a great experience, but it needs to be some benefit for the business that's trying to deliver that consumer experience. Yeah. And a great example of that, we've just gone live with an organization out of Australia. In 6 weeks, they were achieving 60% automation with their customer experience from a standing start and delivering better customer experience for those customers. So speed to value from a business perspective as well is really important.
Maybe one of the two of you can talk to the results of that A/B testing you were talking about. What happens when we mix our hybrid and our predefined together?
So I think that the most important thing about hybrid approach is that we see a lot of customers out there that are a little bit afraid of taking on LLM-based discussions with their customers. And I think the hybrid approach offers a way to control that in a way so that you can manage it, you can test it while it's happening to ensure that the customers are getting the absolute best experience possible. So I think that's one of the most critical parts around the hybrid approach, that you can do this in a controlled manner so that you don't get that phone call from a customer saying, hey, I just had this conversation with your bot and it told me swear words or it's said to me that I can have a smaller price or other things like that. So really trying to avoid those kinds of things from happening within the company. So that control is absolutely important.
So we have the mechanisms to control and to A/B test. I know that we have an example of somebody who did that this year. Can you share some of the numbers around that, Jerry?
Yeah, I think the best is the high level number of what we see with organizations that have tried or deployed more traditional routes for automation, and those that are trying hybrid paths. And across our customer base, we see a 70% increase in automation with organizations when they're driving hybrid approaches to customer engagement, which is a phenomenal statistic in increase in the automation level. So that's pure automation of the entire customer experience for that engagement. So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that's not percentage points, that's pretty considerable. And I believe associated to that is a much higher likelihood of a higher CSAT. We talk about great customer experience, personalization, customers enjoy that experience, then that comes through in the numbers.
Agree, and I think the other bit in our customer engagement that resonates really well when we talk about blending generative and LLM capabilities with conversational AI, what we've deployed historically, is they want to choose a platform which gives them the flexibility of trying out these technologies where they feel more comfortable, but they want to choose a platform that gradually over time, as this technology matures, they have a platform that can grow and mature with them. And I think that's why we're seeing some of the biggest brands in the world choose Boost.
And I think that's really important to us at Boost, right? Staying ahead of market trends, but also listening to our customers. So although this was made in jest, it is important. We are listening to our customers. We're trying to understand what they need in this space as much as looking forward. So let's spend a moment talking about looking forward from both of you, please.
Yeah, I think in general we've seen a large influx of new customers, and obviously when that happens, well then there's a lot of new things coming up on the table, and obviously we're trying to accommodate that as best as possible while still trying to also develop some of the more strategic areas. So one of the things that we really build upon this year is the success of the generative action. So building up global knowledge, so being able to organize knowledge across the entire platform, whether it's videos or images or documents or connections to SharePoint or whatever, but then also building global guardrails, so the ability to handle risk from an overall perspective across the platform. And then finally, global instructions, so the ability to handle instructions across the entire platform and being able to interchange instructions between things. And then finally, our CX Insights, so our capability of being able to look into a conversation and say what has happened there. So that's been a lot of the things that we've been managed to push out this year, and obviously a lot more will come yet next year.
So to wrap up, could the two of you take us through, just briefly, what we have to look forward to in the future?
Sure. I think it would be remiss for us to have this conversation without talking about agentic AI or AI agents. That seems to be on every single tech company's marketing brochures today. So for us, this is something we've been deploying inside our customers for actually a considerable amount of time. Autonomous agents, goal-orientated, really predominantly around customer service and fulfilling the objectives of what customers want and why they're engaging with brands. I think the next layer that sits really underneath that in terms of importance for us is around the orchestration. So AI agents or agentic AI often has a functional goal or a functional process. And to be able to orchestrate across all of these different components, especially when they involve third-party capabilities as well. So you might have already deployed a third-party bot to go and do something specific with your employees, but really, how do you control and manage that at an organizational level? So I think you'll see Boost play fairly significantly in that orchestration layer that sits above all of it.
Yeah, and I think another important aspect that we are also working on is the fact that we want to open up an ecosystem, right? Because what we realize is that we have a lot of different customers, a lot of different partners out there that are actually interested in contributing to the ecosystem. So what we're going to work on is the ability for us to develop components and assets, and then to distribute those components and assets throughout the platform. So imagine that you are the first customer that have the platform, and it's the first time you enter it, and then you have the capability of actually adding, both personas, generative action that are sort of fully built out, as well as integrations and other parts of the platform, and sort of pull it into the platform and just start to use it. So really, really a powerful feature, and I'm looking so much forward to seeing it in real life. And then another thing that we're working very heavily on is obviously our voice offerings, because our voice offerings, as we all know, with voice, latency is a big issue, right? So how can we have that naturally flowing conversation? So what we're doing is that we're building in new types of models, and we're doing a lot of different optimizations in the platform to achieve human-like conversations that almost, feels like a normal human conversation. So I'm also looking very much forward to that, to launch all of those new things this year. And I would add that another aspect, or an important aspect for Boozt, is actually the possibility of saying, well, hold on, if we are to deploy this in a regulated industry, then how do we ensure all of the security? How do we ensure the backend connectivity? How do we ensure these very sort of detailed use cases to be achieved using voice? So that's another element that we will be working on as well next year.
So I'm hearing natural human experiences,
yes,
easier than ever before at scale.
With security and back-end connectivity in mind, yes.
A lot to look forward to.
And I think I'm going to add one more.
Break the rules.
Break the rules. And I think this bit, for me, excites me, no offense, Rasmus, to the areas that you covered, excites me the most around what's possible with Wizards. So today in deploying Boozt, and I gave the example of the company in Australia, 4 weeks achieving, it was above 60% automation. That represents millions of conversations on an annual basis. And we're not happy with 4 weeks. So how do we get the 4 weeks down to 3 weeks, down to 2 weeks, and really start helping customers realize the value sooner when they start on that journey with Boozt? So what you'll start to see is Wizard capability that helps you take the data that exists inside your customers, inside your platforms today, utilizes that data and takes you through a process that helps you build automatically these solutions based on the use case that you set it out, or the prompt that you set it out to do. I think where you can go with this in the future is phenomenal, and you'll start to see organizations get speed to value literally within a week for pretty complex use cases.
I mean, time to value of 4 weeks is already incredible. So shortening that with the use of Wizards.
Yeah, and I think it's also actually a way to increase the volumes of conversations. After you've been running for a couple of years, that's a way for you to achieve even more without, spending the effort of building in new integrations, because you need to pull them in, right? So I really do see that it's going to be a powerful tool for any of our existing customers as well going forward in terms of increasing their level of automation.
Very exciting, and really in the very near future, 2025 is just around the corner. Any last words from yourself, Jerry, or Rasmus?
I mean, for me, I think 2024 has been a year of records. The brands that we've won, the growth that we've achieved, the people that we've brought on, the talent, and the success that our customers are seeing. 2025 for us is 10x what we've seen in 2024. So I am beyond excited about what we're going to see in 2025.
So thank you all. It's been great wrapping up the year with you both, and looking forward to 2025.